Welcome to the Vylos webinar and a little bit about us. To start off and why we put this together, we offer workshops, consulting, and implementation around AI. And, many times we're brought into corporations because, from the workshop or consulting side, they might not even know where to begin. A lot of people put in answers here around some of the challenges that you had. And, we've read through them and tried to also keep that in mind for this. But our mission is to get folks and organizations past the hype and the fluff and really utilize AI and automation to increase revenue, decrease operating costs, and stop repeating errors. And so with that being said, a lot of times when we talk to companies, there's a lot of confusion around what they should tackle. And just to give a little bit of a glimpse with what we always recommend is we always joke and push people to say, look past the chatbots and really look to end-to-end automation. And things that are easy, low-hanging fruit a lot of times in organizations are workflows around documentation, right? So invoicing, PDFs, proof of delivery, things like that. And David has such a awesome, interesting background that he wanted to actually help folks that are a little bit more looking to dive a little bit deeper and get their hands into this. So welcome to the session today, Demystifying AI Native Development for Leaders with Claude Code. Don't get scared, get started. And we had many people opt into our lucky draw. So if you did, you get the chance to win a complimentary one-on-one 30-minute focused AI strategy session with David after this is done. A little bit about David, the CTO here at Vylos, and the guy that I get to say great things about because I think he's amazing. He has 17 years of experience navigating technology. He's been advising different organizations and inside of different organizations for many years, including banking, financial management, from startups to all sorts of companies worldwide. And I've had the pleasure of doing about 300 plus successful AI projects with him over these years. And he brings us a really rare combination of technical and strategic vision. So I'll stop flattering him, and then now he's going to take it over. I'm going to sit back and relax, and hope everyone enjoys the session.
Yeah. Thank you, Hassan, especially for the nice words. Thank you for joining. And I want to jump directly in because I see there's a gap in what people think AI does and how it works and what it can do and what it really does. And also there's a huge demand on really use these coding agents somehow. And Claude Code is right now the go-to harness of most people. When you talk about agentic coding, most people think about Claude Code. There are others, of course, so this is not an endorsed Anthropic webinar or something like this. There are others, we will talk about it, but we will focus on Claude Code today, and I want to show you how you can use it. And I try to take a little bit away the fear from using a terminal. So and I probably jump directly in because what is a terminal? This is what we will do. Some words. I will share my screen. So just some words at the beginning. You don't see anything here. That's just a desktop. You see, I use Windows. Obviously, there are different operating systems and different ways to use a terminal. You have Macs around. Developers usually use a lot of Macs. It's a Unix-like system. You have Windows, of course, most used in all offices and so on. And Linux, the open source stuff for the nerdy ones. And all of them have terminals in their own flavor and so on and so forth. Personally, even if it's totally doable, I don't develop under Windows, even if you see this is Windows here, because it has some very own behavior. But the good thing is there is a thing that's called WSL. It's the Windows subsystem for Linux. You can just, if you open it and you type in Ubuntu, you can just add it as an app, for example, and then you have Linux running on your Windows machine. This is what I will show here. So just if you try the commands at home and see there looks something different, be aware I use Ubuntu on Windows here, Linux subsystem. So if you do this, it's the same on Mac and Linux, and now for me as well. I can just type it in here, and you type in terminal. There is an app in Windows, which is called terminal. So if I click it, I open a terminal. So just that you know it, when you first install something like this, it will look a little bit different. So this is a terminal, a bare terminal, how you will see it when you install it. Some words here. So why is it called a terminal? In the first place, it's not an airport or something. It's called terminal because usually that's the end point where you talk with the computer. So this is where information gets in and out when you want a computer to do something. Also, of course, a terminal, that's nothing new. It's super ancient. So it's kind of one of the earliest versions how we communicated with computers and give them instructions. We prompt them instructions what they should do. Okay, so some words here you see, this looks already gibberish, but it all has a meaning. So here, this is your user. You're always logged in as a user in your terminal, usually your standard Windows user, or you can give one when you install it. Then there is the name of the workstation. I call it HAL. Odyssey fans know the reference. Then you see this double point. This means here starts the prompt side of things. Here, this tiled here means this is the home directory, and then here starts the prompt. So also, of course, it may look a little bit arcane at the beginning when you have to type in some special commands in here. But even if there is a vast variety of commands, and don't be shy, you have to Google them anyway all the time. No matter how many years you use it, you will look up the same commands over and over again. That's not a shame. That's absolutely okay to do it. But to navigate it, you only need some commands, like ls, that's short for list. And then you see, yeah, nothing in here because it would list the folders in this home directory. I don't know if you know it. So I heard from IT professors that their students no longer know what folders are and what I'm talking about. But in reality, your whole computer has folders with data in it, like you know it from Windows when you do it like this. So usually, yeah, it looks somewhat like this when you have folders in a window. Okay, so before I go into the commands, I will change quick to my shell. So it looks like this, and you can absolutely tweak them. So this is my shell. You see, I have nice icons here and so on. But it's absolutely the same. It's just it looks nicer and has some more functionality. The commands are absolutely the same. So if I type ls, here I have some folders. If I want to change in the webinar folder, which we will use, I have to use the command change directory, and I go into webinar. So, whoa, I'm in this folder now. You see this in the prompt. So I'm one folder away from home in the webinar folder. ls, nothing in there. Okay, it's empty because we will start from scratch as I promised. Okay, so some commands. You already see this is the list command, the change directory command. Just that you know it, if you want to get out of this, you need 2 dots, and I'm back one folder again. So, and this is already all you need to navigate through your whole file system. So now I have access to the complete file system all on this PC. Just with these 2 commands, I can sneak around and look what I do there. One other, you will see I have something open here. That's an IDE. It's just that I can show you what's going on. You don't need this mandatorily for Claude Code. With the time being, you will use it anyway then. But just that you see it. I could do something when I want to create a file. Like here, the simplest file, a text file, touch hello txt. You see, now here the file is here. I can open it. There is also a command like the hello world command, like when you say echo hello world, it's like printing. Then you see my computer just says hello world. So that's nice. I gave it an input. It gave me an output. I can tell it even, hey, put this input in this file here in the hello txt. And then you will see it wrote this. Now you see nothing in standard output, but it wrote it directly in the file. Why am I showing this? Because now you already understand what a coding agent is and what it can do. Because when I show you how to install Claude Code and when you use it, this is exactly what an coding agent does. You interact with it with the API on their side. So you just send an instruction, it generates something and gives you back. The difference is that it has access to this terminal, to the shell, and that it can execute this command. And it can, you will see in the background that it does a lot of these echo commands, because this is how it will update files on your computer. And like this, a large language model like Claude Anthropic, GPT, Gemini, all of them like this, they can manipulate files directly on your PC, and they have access to this output. So they can see what your terminal puts out, and they have access to files. So this is kind of all you need to know already to understand what a coding agent is. It's literally not more. It's just the ability for this thing to manipulate files directly on your PC. I can remove this here also, and then it's gone. Okay, so now enough with the basics. We want to use Claude Code. That's why you're here, right? So I also can, or everybody can install programs directly from the terminal. You have all functionality you have in Windows or Mac OS, which you have in your graphical interface. All of this you can do with the terminal. That's why the terminal is so useful. If we want to install Claude Code, it's fairly easy. I can show you here. There is the official install Claude Code documentation, and you see for Mac, Linux, WSL. So that's what I run here. It's literally just this one command. You can just copy it and paste it in your thing and execute it, and it will install it. Then it just runs through and you will have it on your computer. That's all you need to do. To check if you have it, you can use a function like Claude version, and it will, when it outputs in version, then you know, okay, it's installed, it's ready, and it can do it. To start it, you will just enter Claude. But one thing before here, and I have to quickly look how I called it here. One thing, I just want to make it really sure that it's in sync with the...
David, would it be helpful if I put this link into the chat for everybody?
Yeah, sure. You can do it. Yeah, and just before I start Claude, I will create a folder again. You see, it's empty now, but I will create a dedicated folder before I execute it. And why? I will show you. So make directory is the command for making a directory. I will call it Claude demo, that I know where we are. You see, now it's there, and I can go into this Claude demo. And now I start Claude with the Claude command. Claude, whoop, and you will see here. This is important to know this message. It asks me up front if it's safe to access this workspace. And with workspace, it means this dedicated folder here. So it will really only have access to this folder. It will not sneak around on my hard disk and do other stuff, even if in theory it can't. But this is one of the guardrails Claude Code has built in. If you execute it in a folder, then it's restricted to this folder already. And of course, you should be sure that in this folder is only text or programs or whatever which you know, which you trust, so that it don't get compromised. So yes, I trust this folder. I just created it, and here we are. That's the Claude Code interface, so to say. You see, it's a graphical interface within the terminal now, which also kind of emulates the terminal here, down here. Okay, so we are all set. One thing to mention, so to use Claude Code, you need a subscription from Anthropic, either the Pro, the Max, or the Super Max, however it's called, subscription. The cheap one for the $20 a month will do it. There was a way, or still is a way, that you also can do upfront payments over API, but then you need to copy the API key and so on and so forth. If you have a subscription, you can just type /login. And then you will go through the OAuth flow that you log in, and it checks and that it has the subscription, and then it will just run and burn your tokens. Okay, yeah, this already one thing up front. If you hit this, you see there are some commands already built in. Also, there is a help command, just that you know it. So if you need help, you can use this command. Or of course, you can directly ask Claude Code when you're not sure about it. So you see here we are, and I go in this folder. There is nothing in there yet. And now we will tell it to create a nice HTML page. So create a index.html file that has a page with a nice greeting to the audience of our webinar. So this is all I type in now. This is so no idea of what to code or whatever. I just tell it that it please should create a homepage with a nice greeting of the audience. What it did here, Claude Code now runs a loop. It looks for what is in the folder. You see, it already generated this HTML. It's like in the chat interface. You gave something, it gave something back. And now here you see it asks about permission, if it may create this file. So I could now click yes, which I will do. I can also say, yeah, during the session, it's fine, go mad, do whatever you want. But of course, the safer way is always to look at any command so that you can approve it. And you see it created now this index file, and here is the HTML page already. And now, one second. Now you see for that here on Windows, for example, this is the Claude Code demo. If I click in, there is already this file. If I double click on this file, then you see it has created a homepage. Hey everyone, we're thrilled to have you here. This is our live webinar. This was just created. You see it runs locally on my machine. So here localhost, blah, 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 index HTML. Every browser, of course, can interpret HTML. It's just text. Any programming language, any way to interact with something, it's just text. And that's why large language models are so good at it, because the syntax is very narrow compared to natural language. The thousands of languages we have with dialects and everything. Code is also, it's just a string. You can generate it, and it's very logic, and it's compared to natural language, even very narrow in what it should tell. So you see so fast you can do an HTML page, which doesn't mean it's trivial. HTML is anything but trivial. So I also can now interact with it directly, make a nice hero header. Yeah, like this. So you see, you can just, like with any other tools out there, you can just interact with it in natural language. It runs stuff, it will generate stuff then again. And the nice thing about this, and this is also why I have chosen this, you can directly see then the result in your browser. And also here you will see that it will change now stuff. And yeah, here again, it says, yeah, let's do this. And you see it updates the code. And now, yeah, it even changed the color and made it nicer. So you see this instantly. Okay, one nice neat trick here. And now we already are in a little bit more advanced thing, is when I say plugins. And so not only that Claude Code can, or any coding harness can have access to my PC and can manipulate files and so on and so forth. There is a vast ecosystem of plugins you could use, like instructions, prompts, best practices, MCP, and so on and so forth. So to enhance the functionality of Claude Code. And here you see, if I go in there, there's literally, as a first plugin, it's an official plugin, the front-end design. And I want to install it. It asks me in which scope I want to install the plugin, because yeah, it can be on my user. So anytime I make a new project, I will have it available. It can be in this project, so only for this folder. It can be only in this repository, yeah, or whatever. Usually I go for the project scope, because I don't want to bloat my user with a lot of plugins which are relevant for one project but not so much for another. So I want to have it in the in this project here now. Okay, sometimes I think it already does that out of the box, but to be on the safe side, make reload plugins, so that now it reloaded it and now it has it available. And now I say use your front end plugin to make the design of the page nice, modern, and yeah, and more professional, let's say. And again, you see, it's a very basic prompt, which I do. I just have installed the plugin. I do it intentionally because I want to show that you can enhance the way how Claude Code works with these plugins quite dramatically. You don't have to set up all this context and all the stuff you want to tell it every time yourself. Sometimes you just find the right plugin. This is also helpful. For example, now we do HTML and CSS and so on, and front-end plugin seems to be the right one for us. Usually there are, even for different programming languages, there are different plugins, like you can have the Python plugin, you can have the Rust plugin, you can have the JavaScript plugin, and so on, where some dedicated skills are in it, so that it can handle your code base better. So yeah, let me quickly recap, since we go here through quite fast. So I told you to not do this on Windows. No, you can do it, but it's easier if you install the WSL Linux subsystem. A small introduction on what the terminal actually looks like. And what it does. And now we are here in creating and also using the plugins. You see here in the bottom there are different modes for Claude Code, which I can switch here. I can give it auto mode on, which means I don't have to accept for every change it does to give it a yes. I give it some more autonomy and that it can list the files and edit the files and so on. Some words on safety. Yeah, of course it's nicer if you have the auto mode on and you see now it just goes mad and updates everything and does it autonomously. But of course it means that I give control to the harness and that I just trust it. This auto mode, you can say this is wipe coding. Nevertheless, now you see it did it while I was talking here, and now let's see what it did. Yeah, now it looks like this. And this is quite a dramatic change from the basic hello world. So here you have this with nice animations already. Yeah, it got the duration wrong, but I didn't give it any context about the webinar. And still, you see for this low effort, this some sentences I gave it, we already have something which I would say looks appealing. And you see, my point was to demonstrate that how you really could leverage these plugins to make your life easy and to make the output nicer. Okay, so this is very nice. Okay, but not only that we have access now here to the files, we also created a nice homepage. And this is a little bit out. Are there any questions at this point?
Yeah, I think for a small enough group, feel free, anyone, if you want. You should be able to unmute yourself if you'd like to. I think we made that possible, so don't be shy. And we made this a pretty pretty small group just because it's a little bit more in depth. So any questions or things people might want to know from anything that's been shared so far? I think one question that I have is one question I have, Dave, is you mentioned when you went into like the folder and it asked about where it could access. So is that one of your tips around best practices, making sure that it's confined to a certain area of your
Yeah, absolutely. So this is usually, I always create the folder before I execute it. It's not because I have so many stuff on my my hard disk that I don't want it to see, but also it scans the folder and it goes into your context window and into the usage. So if you give it root access and it has access to all the files on your computer and you start with something, then it's possible that it takes everything as a context and your token are burned before you have a single page. So both things, on the one hand, security and safety, of course, that it doesn't go rogue on your file system. And on the other way, it's of course, it would be insane to read all your files on your hard disk in the context of the large language model, because it you would see it heavily on the usage. So
cool. And then my second question is that it's really neat to see HTML made. I'm wondering for you, like the power of that or why you chose HTML. Can you then incorporate this into a business context with this as well, or?
Yeah, I choose HTML because I wanted to demonstrate that at the end, any code is just text in a file. HTML is so nice because I can just execute it and you see it directly in the browser and you see the effect directly. This is not so easy when you work on backend tasks, for example, because then I would now pull up, JSON Postman. Some here would know it, but then to show what it does, it would be very more technical and not so nice. But yeah, from a business perspective, this means that you see how fast code generation could get. And we had a moment, I would say 5-6 months ago, where most developers stopped laughing at these generated code because it was quite sloppy and bad even a year ago. So it really didn't write the best code and didn't get the context. And yeah, we made fun of it. But then with the newer generations, it got really good. Like most people stopped laughing, and then they had to Google what did it do there, and then they found out that it knows more than you now. And this was the moment when these really got useful for coding tasks, because the code that is produced is really good. Still, you see how much we outputted here. So, and you see, I haven't looked at this code at all. It's 278 lines and I haven't looked at it. And this is called vibe coding. And of course, this is not what you would usually do in a production environment with real code and so on. So the way is the same. I open it, I give it context, I ask it about a thing, but I would not probably refactor everything and then push a 1 million changed code thing into the repository. I would ask it to make it small changes and so that I can still understand what it does, and then only commit it. So yeah, so. Okay, yeah, committed. That's the thing we want to do, because we said we want to have a working homepage at the end. Now I leave when I want to leave it. So exit, you see there is an exit command, and then I'm back here. So I'm here, I have my index HTML page. The commands I execute now, I won't go in depth about it too much because it's Git, and Git is a rabbit hole itself. Git is a version control system for code. But I want you to show how fast you can be live with something like this. Git init means now I just made it a repository. I add all these files, which I changed. I make a commit. World, it's the first commit. Okay, now I have it in my version control system. What I already did is I prepared a little repository on GitHub here, and I will add this. Git remote add origin. Yeah, now a little arcane tipping. Whoop. Okay, and now I will git push. Okay, should work. Fingers crossed. Okay. I pushed this now to a demo repository. It will be here. Yeah, so here you see it. There was a test run before. This is GitHub, probably you know it, the world's biggest repository system where I can just push code. So the code it generated lies here now. You see, this is the hello world message. I just gave it in the commit. And here's the index HTML page. I just made it locally. I just pushed it to GitHub. And this repository is set as a GitHub Pages site. GitHub Pages lets you just serve pages without any cost. It's free. You can just use it. It will take a little bit while it builds, but it means that this page will be online in some seconds. And yeah, so I created a homepage locally. I pushed it to GitHub. I will use GitHub Pages to serve this page, and this means I will have a homepage online in no time. By the way, this is a neat trick. I don't know if you know it, but usually you have a hosting provider, or even when you use Lovable or something like this, you have to pay a subscription or something like this to have your pages served. Usually also it takes a lot of setup then with domains and DNS and certificates and whatnot, so to get this up and running. So GitHub Pages is a very neat way to really get this out of the door without hesitating about hosting it, without any wrapping your mind around DNS and blah blah blah. Also, safety usually is not a thing. It's for simple pages, of course. So it's not for your 1,000 pages content management system which you can host here, but these simple pages can just be served by GitHub Pages. We can look into it, what it does here. So hey, yeah, it already has built it. It deploys it now to GitHub Pages. Yeah, it takes a little bit, and then it will be online in no time. And yeah, also just to name it. So I know everybody wants to use Claude Code in the terminal, and it's cool. But I have to mention there are other ways you can use it these days. So not only is there Claude Code, there is also Codex, and I think it's Google version is Jules. So every big provider has its own coding agent environment. And even there is a Claude Code for desktop app now, where you don't have to jump in the terminal and install all of this. You can just install the Claude desktop app. And then it's also called computer use, because you give it kind of access just via the Windows shell to do more or less the same, which we did right now here. So yeah, just that you know it, you don't have to use the terminal if you don't want to. Okay.
David, there's a question around that Yashi's asking about, is there any comments you can make on controlling the token usage, or like limiting of that?
Yeah, it depends. So as you have seen, probably, wait, when I start it again. As you have seen, there was a little make the page side feed modern. So just when you put something, you see that the token count runs here. You have online, you have a usage counter where you see how your token usage is right now. Usually, at least in the Claude Code subscriptions, you don't have to worry too much about because it's capped, kind of. In general, it's a good advice if you for non-trivial processes that you leverage, that you have access to different models. So you see with the model catalog, yeah, cute. With the model catalog, it's just, wait, I interrupted. So here with the model catalog, you can choose what is your default model. So Opus burns, of course, your token way faster than Sonnet or Haiku, and also the payment for it is more expensive. Usually, it's a good practice to plan something you want to build first and use the good model for it here, like Opus should make the plan. And then when you start to do it, it's usually enough if Sonnet, your coding agent, really does the code and iterates over it and so on. So with this, you can reduce the usage, of course. And of course, there's a lot of best practices in a way where you can say, keep the context window smaller. Also, when you resume usually when you start Claude Code, you start with fresh context. You can resume it from your conversation, from a previous chat, and then it loads all the context in again. This is, of course, it's good for that the agent knows what to do, but it's bad for token usage. What you can do is compact. Compact means that all the history right now you have in the conversation will be summarized by Claude so that the key points will preserve, and will compact it in a smaller file just with the summary, and will use this as context. This also helps a lot to keep the conversation going, to keep the context there, and still have the context for your project. Of course, you have different patterns. So I tend to have a pattern which burns a little bit more tokens, since I tell it to do be sure to use red, green, TDD. That's a nice trick. Red, green, TDD means test-driven development. It should write a test first that fails, because sometimes it cheats and just writes tests that always pass, which is not the purpose of a test. So it should write a test that really fails, and then start the implementation against the test until the test goes green. So this makes your code much better. It also makes the output of the model better, because it really has to develop a solution that passes the test. But it means that you burn more tokens, of course, because you have the whole testing up front. And follow the YAGNI approach. That's very good for being conservative with tokens. YAGNI means you ain't gonna need it. And this is Claude Code, like any other engineer as well, tends to over-engineer things and tends to implement features which you need at enterprise scale, but probably not at proof of concept or MVP scale and so on. So when you tell it you ain't gonna need it, then it adheres to the best practice, which is a best practice for developers, to really only implement the most necessary amount of code to get the thing up and running. So these both are very good. So red, green, TDD for having test coverage, which you usually want, but also follow the you ain't gonna need it approach, because this cuts all the bloat away, and that there are a gazillion features in your code base which you probably never need. So let's see, are we live yet? That looks good. So it's deployed, and here we have it. So you see now this page is online. Just that you see, I don't cheat. Where do I have the chat here? Zoom. Yeah, share right now. Yeah, I can post it. I can post it in the chat. Where's the chat? Wait, I have to stop this shortly. So, here's the chat. Here you have it, the demo page. You can look at it. And you see, it's literally the page we just have built. So we went from idea to deployment with a complete terminal explanation in 39 minutes plus intro. And I think it's and this is as fast as it can get from idea to having something live to show. Of course, this is you can have more like these, like subpages, and every repository can be a page quickly here. For you, for example, when you do a cheat sheet, or when you do a small app that you want to show around, which is relevant, then you can use this GitHub Pages functionality to spread the word. You can share it in the Slack channel, and you can show it to your colleagues, and they can access it. And you also could do like the Zendesk cheat sheet for webhooks, or no matter in what domain you are, like these helper pages. This is a very neat thing to do, and also it's more powerful than it looks like. So you can use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in this as well. So you can even build apps in here, as long as you tell it should use vanilla. JavaScript means not a super big framework like Next.js or React Flow, or where you have to build the page up front. If it doesn't have a building process, you can use it right within. And the cool thing is Claude Code and all the other agents are really good at plain JavaScript. So it doesn't need the framework. These frameworks are meant for developers to make their life easier, to not have to write the same thing over again, or to write this low low level. It's called low level. The more near you are at the machine, the lower the level. And it's painful to write it as a developer because you have to do every corner of it. But for a coding agent, it's not a problem. So you can just tell it to not use a framework, and it will happily code down in vanilla JS the craziest apps, and you still can use GitHub Pages then. So you could even create a little app and share them with your team. And probably also that is what you see why this is kind of a revolution, because this code, as I said, with the newest frontier models, this code got really good, and so the production of code itself is no longer the bottleneck, and that's a fact that's given. Of course, there's hesitation between developers. They still say, yeah, the tested writes, it's not the best test you can imagine, because you have to do it more fuzzy and blah 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 and so on. And you see that developers are now that they always write the most performant, only YAGNI adhering tested code humankind has ever seen. But the truth is, it's rarely true. So the code large language models generate usually is better at this point, except you are in a really crazy domain, like hey, you're in a embedded system and writing chips for cars where you only have access to the documentation how this chip works internally. This is where I probably still would not rely too much on a large language model, also in this safety critic environment. So if it's really about airplanes and I don't know, life carrying systems and something like this, there of course you should not just let a large language model code something and deploy it to production. That's not how you should do it. Still, I think for most apps, 95% of all apps are get information from where, store it in a database, and show it on a nice UI. And this is so much documented on the whole web and everything that you really can say the production of code is no longer a time-consuming thing, which doesn't necessarily mean that the whole pipeline gets more performant. You still need to have humans in the loop here, and but it moves the bottleneck somewhere else. Yeah.
David, thanks so much. I think, thank you so much, everyone. This is the end of kind of the formal instruction session. And again, David has over 17 years experience in this. It's a small group. We designed it this way. We actually wanted to keep it maxed out, so we closed attendance kind of early last week. And if you're here, P-Stone, Jason, Yashi, Pawnit, if you have questions or even about what was covered or anything else inside this realm, feel free to unmute or type in the chat, and we'd be happy to answer any questions here at the end. Yashi?
Yeah. Yeah, if it's okay, I would start. Hi, David.
Hi.
Hi, Hassan. So basically, I was at a Vibe Code event in May, and we had like different approaches to Vibe coding. We focused mostly on Lovable, and one of the approaches was either folks really prompting super lengthy, I want to say, especially the first prompt. So they were like thinking for like 2 hours before they prompted the first time. And my approach, on the other hand, because I don't know what I'm doing, I was basically just like starting and just like prompting away. That's how I did it before, and that's how I still do it. What is your approach, like from the one side again, like how it works best with the tokens, but also from like your experience? Does it make sense to really take the time and like plan everything out, maybe even with pen and paper, and then do like a super elaborate first prompt and then reiterate? Or is it more of a just like whatever fits your working style?
For me, fortunately, I have seen so many things, and architecture is more or less my strong suit, that I'm not hesitant to start right away. But you see, when I switch it here, there is a plan mode. And usually this is exactly what I use, because when I build more complex apps with front end and back end and logic and more stuff, I want a plan first, so that there is the product owner and product manager speaking in me. So I don't want to produce a lot of code which I then don't need, and so on and so forth. But I make it in a conversation with Claude Code. So make a plan to do an interactive 3D world on the page. So this is something where I say, okay, this is a little bit more complex than HTML, because probably it will use 3JS or some framework for the functionality. But I like this plan mode. Plan mode means that it doesn't update any files until I really say it should implement it. It just researches, takes the whole context of the project, and then it comes up with a plan. And then I look at this plan and I think, you can have a conversation. You see, even wait, I have to remove this full mode here right now. I just will quickly close this here now. You see now it even gives me options. So, hey, what should the 3D world actually be conceptually? So very often it asks questions which I haven't thought about. So, okay, that's a good point. So should it be navigable, data stream, and so on? And here you see, okay, 3D data flow pipeline. Yeah, that's nice. Interaction, orbit tracking. You see the kind of detail it already has here. And I can go through it and lay out the plan. And also type something is always an option. When you say, no, I don't like this, I think that's over the top. Couldn't you use library X or something like this? So it's a conversation. And I have seen, I think it's new even in the Claude Opus 4.8 Fable things, that it lost a little bit of its psychophancy in terms of it doesn't always say, oh, that's a world shattering great idea, I go and code it. It pushes back at the time being. It says, yeah, you could do it, but you said we have the YAGNI approach, and what you are doing, that's over the top, so probably go with this better. So it's good to have a conversation with it in plan mode, and then you can just start right away. And usually it's totally okay to give it just a high level idea at the first thing, like I want to have a 3D globe interactive whatnot, and then you can have the conversation with the coding on it, and you start right away. And then also, but that's general for software development. Usually you would not say then, yeah, make it all. It should make a plan, like phase 1, phase 2, or milestone 1, milestone 2, milestone 3, and then you go through it and you proceed to every step of the plan. And very often, and this is like with real developers, it's not different, that on the way on creating the new app and so on, the coding agent or yourself, you find some problems, or you need to think, this doesn't work out, or you see the solution and think, that's not what I think, can we change it? So it's good to have these points in between. These milestones make totally sense. I even have projects where I tell it that it should create task.md files for every task it does, because this is sometimes very good for sub-agent. This thing now can do sub-agents, so if a task is very good, it just fans out and creates sub-agents in the code, and when they have a shared task MD file, for example, then they can work on more complex things in parallel, and then it gets really fancy. This burns token like crazy, but it's very productive.
Thanks, Dave. Yashi, great question. Would anyone else have any last questions here in the last 10 minutes? I think that's a great question. Yeah. I know, David, we had someone write in. Actually, we had quite a lot of people write in, and some folks that are here, or even some that didn't get the chance to join now, have pinged me and just asked about, like, there's a lot of horror stories people heard about AI in general, or coding agents, or things kind of running wild. And there's only 10 minutes left, but I don't know, in the last minutes, do you have any best practices or thoughts or recommendations for people that want to keep things secure and compliant on their?
Absolutely. So this webinar should take the fear of using it because, yeah, it's a fancy text editor which is powerful. But of course, to give like a program which is non-deterministic and can do stuff, access to your local machine has risk. Absolutely. And so when you hear about stories that the coding agent deleted the database or ruined the whole startup, for me, that's not a problem of the coding agent, but it's a problem how you use it. Because as I have showed, I started here in this environment, and it only has these file here as a context. I would do the very same when you have credentials in your environment. Very often you have tokens or database connections or stuff like this, which you need, and you usually have it in .env files in your environment, but you should not have your production environment variables somewhere near a coding agent at all. If you have a real good data production pipeline, a building pipeline, then even none of these live credentials are on your PC at all. So usually your production environment has totally different credentials than your developer machine. And so when someone says Claude Code deleted my database, then I think, oh my God, you got your production credentials somewhere on your PC in plain text. So that was the reason why this coding agent could delete the production database. And it's a bad practice to have production credentials stored anywhere near a coding agent, of course. And so you cannot blame the technology for it, that it did something which was not intentional. Of course, you need to make sure that under no circumstance this can happen. So, so best practices for development also apply to coding agents, separate credentials, have separate environments. So usually you do not deploy directly to production. That's a bad habit. You have a testing system and you deploy to the testing system. And if there everything is fine, you check mark it and then you push it to production. But you never push to production directly, and that's also why you never have production credentials directly on your local developer machine. Yeah, and some other stuff. Of course, it's a bad habit. That's more legit for teams. It's a very bad habit to just generate code, don't look at it, and give it your colleague to review it. This is something that burns out your colleagues, and it's also not a good practice to let a human just regenerate it, slop the whole day. So usually it's still the same. You created the code, no matter how. You're accountable and responsible for this code that it runs, and of course you have reviewed it yourself and made sure that your colleague that you don't give the mental burden of going through this to your colleague. There is already now it gets clear that humans are no longer sufficient for reviewing this amount of code which is generated right now. So this doesn't work anymore. That's true already. And at least a best practice is, which can help you, is that you have another coding agent, either in the same session or in the Claude MD file. You can define sub agents and so on, where you tell your coding agent that it should spin up a review agent and review the code. So you need an AI to review the code from an AI. We are already at this point, but this means that the final code you have to review literally then by human already has a better quality and so on. Of course, you need to tweak the system in a way that it makes sense and that it adheres to your rules, but there are all these context files you can give to them. And like this, you come to a way where you then again can handle it. Yeah. And of course, there are more crazy solutions out there, OpenClaw, Hermes, these kind of harnesses. It's called a harness, like Claude Code is a harness. You get on the large language model to do stuff. These harnesses kind of let complete control to the coding agent which runs underneath. This is extremely funny. It's extremely powerful, but it's extremely dangerous, of course. So you cannot use these kind of agentic models for any business process with a good faith. So it's still too crazy. And not only that it can go rogue on your machine or so on. But you see these plugins and these skills, these harnesses are even allowed to write them themselves or to install them somewhere from the web. And this is, of course, a very dangerous attack vector, you say. When you just let your coding agent install untrusted code from anywhere it got it, then this is, of course, a recipe for disaster.
David, thanks so much, and thank you everyone for coming to. Just to wrap things up, a lot of what we do is we help organizations come up with these different workflows and how to actually utilize AI for workflows and also building out agents. And this comes into the form of workshops or consulting and implementation. And so this has been our first kind of test to see if we can help folks understand a little bit better of demystifying AI native development for leaders with Claude Code. And thank you all so much for coming and really appreciate it. And looking forward to any questions or things we can help with in the future. All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.